Hello everyone. In this lecture we'll code the bubble sort algorithm and we'll simply test its working. So in Eclipse, I have created one class as bubble sort and inside that I have created one method printArray. So this method will simply take the array and will simply print its content on the console. So we have already discussed this algorithm in our previous lectures when we discussed about the arrays. So I'll be using this printArray method to simply demonstrate that whether our array is sorted or not. So inside this class, I have provided a main method where I have created an unsorted array, which we already discussed in our previous slide. And at the first step, what we are doing is we are simply calling the printArray method and providing this array to simply see the contents of this array before performing the sort. So here you can see the array is not sorted. So let's write an algorithm to sort this array. So in this lecture we'll see about the bubble sort algorithm. So we'll create a method as public void. We'll give it a name as sort. And to this sort method, we'll pass the integer array, which is the unsorted array. So inside this method, the first step we do is we simply calculate the value of n, which is the number of elements inside this array. So we simply do array.length. And as per the algorithm which we discussed in our previous lecture, we'll first create a boolean variable is swapped. So we have created this variable to keep the track that in any particular iteration we performed any swap or not. So if we have performed any swap, then we are unsure that array is sorted or not. Also in any of the iteration, if we haven't performed any swap, then we can come to know that the array is already sorted. Moving ahead, we first provide a for loop which starts from 0 and goes till n-1. And also friend, we discussed that value of I will basically control the inner for loop, because as we are comparing the adjacent elements, we need to stop at a point where we don't want to compare further. So here with the start of any iteration, we simply provide a value false to its swapped variable. And now we'll provide the inner for loop where j will start from 0 and j will traverse till n minus 1 minus I j plus plus. So friends, we already discussed that why we are providing this condition here is because we need to control the inner for loop by the outer for loop value, which is the I. So we are simply providing I here. Now inside this inner for loop, our basic comparison will start. So we'll simply start with comparing the adjacent elements, that if the value at index j, if it is greater than value at index j plus 1, then we know that they are in wrong order. So we simply perform a swap. So inside this if block, in order to perform swap, we create a temporary variable and we simply store the value at the jth index so that we can use this value to perform the proper swap. So after we take out the value at the jth index, what we do is, now we can simply store the value at j plus 1th index to the jth index, because we need to perform a swap. And the final step, we simply store the value present in the temporary variable to the array at j plus 1th index. So in these 3 steps, we are simply performing the swap of the values present in the jth and the j plus 1th index, because they are in wrong order, as value at the jth index is greater than value at j plus 1th index. So after we perform swap, we simply assign a value true to a swapped variable to keep the track that inside this for loop, when we compare the adjacent elements, we did perform a swap. So after every iteration, here what we do is, we simply check that whether we performed any swap or not. So if we didn't perform the swap, we know that array is already sorted, because all the adjacent elements are at its correct position. So we simply break from this algorithm. And if we had performed any swap, then the value would have been true. So we are unsure till this point that whether array is sorted or not. But if the value it holds is false, then we are sure that array is already sorted. So friends, this is the bubble sort algorithm, which we already discussed in our previous lecture. And in this lecture, we have simply provided the code for it. So now let's test its working. So here what we do is, we simply call the sort method. We provide the array. And after we have performed the sorting, we simply print the array again. So if I run the code now, so friends, here you can see initially the array was 5, 1, 2, 9, 10, which is the content of array before sorting. And then we performed the sort on this array. And after performing the sort, we simply printed the array again. And we found that array is sorted with the all elements to its correct position, 1, 2, 5, 9, 10. So the array is sorted in ascending order. In this tutorial, we saw the demonstration of the bubble sort algorithm. We tested its working in the main method. So friends, I hope you like this video. Thanks, have a nice day.